Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And so it is the big week. The launch of Starfield is finally almost here, and it really truly feels like this is a big event. Not just your typical everyday release, but something that's a little bit more grandiose. And I know a lot of people are gearing up for its early access. However, when it comes to any Bethesda RPG, while they make some of the genres best, there's always one big question, and well, thanks to some leaks online, it sounds like we already got our answer, and it has some fans even more excited. And yeah, we're going to go over all of that today. Also, as I predicted last week, those Nintendo Direct rumors are starting to flood in, and yeah, we're going to dive into that one as well. To start this week off, though, let's go talk about the Xbox Series and the possibility of it getting a mid-generation refresh. It's heavily rumored that the PS5 will get a Pro Edition next year. I do fully expect that. But where does that leave the Xbox Series? Are they going to respond with their own mid-generation refresh? And well, Phil Spencer has been asked about this a few different times, including this past week by IGN. And based on his wording, he seems a little hesitant on introducing new hardware, and that's what everybody's kind of running with right now. However, I don't really view his comments quite in that way, and I'm going to explain why today. I actually find this to be a little bit of a strange situation because it almost feels like the world expects Phil Spencer to reveal future plans years ahead of time, and that's just not how announcements work. It's the exact same thing that we see happen with Nintendo. Nintendo gets asked about the Switch successor, and they just always kind of sidestep the question, and they'll still do that to this day until they officially confirm it themselves. And I guarantee you that Sony would do the exact same thing if asked about a PlayStation 5 Pro. And that really is the point here. These companies aren't going to announce a future product in a random interview, but rather they're going to do it on their own time frame, and there is a reason for that. They don't want to squash any current momentum that they have. So let's just go and take a look at Phil Spencer's full response for context here. So when asked if there was any news on a Series X mid-generation refresh, he said, "No, we're at the end of the beginning of the Xbox Series lifecycle, so I think we need to let devs settle on this hardware and get the most out of it. But in terms of increased frame rate, increased resolution, I just look at what goes on PC with high-end GPUs, high-end CPUs, and it's not always just about pixel count or frame resolution. I think there's lighting techniques. There's a bunch of things that goes into what makes a game look and feel great, and we have a ton of headroom as an industry there." So if you look at this quote here, you kind of notice he doesn't really say yes or no. He only mentions that they don't have news currently, which that is to be expected. Again, they're not going to make an announcement in an interview years ahead of time. Instead, as expected, he gives a non-answer and basically says there's still a lot of improvement that developers can make right now on the Xbox Series X. As he points out, it's not just about raw power, but also the tools and techniques that developers learn throughout its lifecycle, which is 100% correct. It's the exact same reason that with every single generation of consoles, the later you get into that generation, the better games look. And there's no reason to expect otherwise when it comes to the Xbox Series X. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is don't look into these interviews and expect an exact answer. If they do decide to do a Series X Pro, which I'm not saying that they will or won't, but if they do announce it, it'll be on their own time frame. Now, if I were to make a prediction on that, I think at the earliest that will happen in like 2025, which follows a similar trend that we saw last generation with the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X. Moving on, though, Starfield isn't the only big game releasing this week with stars in the title, because Sea of Stars, that's also set to launch tomorrow, and the thing about this game is that it's always looked special. A Chrono Trigger-inspired game coming from the same creators that brought us The Messenger, also a great release. Go check it out. Everything about this game sounds good on paper, and the great news here is that reviews are now confirming that it is as good as it looks. As of this recording, Sea of Stars has a 95 overall score on OpenCritic with 21 reviews. Now, over on Metacritic, it has an 88 with 11 reviews. We'll see how that shapes up as more comes in. But you can see across the board, critics are absolutely loving this game, and it's really putting itself in position for the best independent game of 2023. Truthfully, I mean, it has been a crazy year. 2023, it just doesn't slow down at all. But I think that that there is kind of the concern with Sea of Stars. I mean, it sounds great, obviously, and I think a lot of people will jump in, but its release date does come at an extremely busy time. Releasing between Baldur's Gate 3, Armored Core 6, and Starfield, I mean, I don't think that is exactly ideal. So, if anything, I think it definitely needs these reviews to stand out among all of these heavy hitters. The good thing, though, is that Sea of Stars is launching directly into both Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus Extra. You gotta love it. So a lot of players can jump in immediately, or if they want to put it to the side and play a little bit later down the road, they can absolutely do that. But don't forget that it's also coming over to Nintendo and PC as well. Everybody can enjoy this game. And I mean, I just love the fact that I can sit here and say today that Sea of Stars seems to be meeting those lofty expectations. Speaking of lofty expectations, though, I don't know if there's ever been a game that has had higher expectations set on it than Starfield. I mean, it's actually ridiculous how scrutinized this game has been online. And let's be honest about this. It's because it's an Xbox branded game now. That's what all of this boils down to, and that's why we've seen one discourse online after another. It was first about its marketing, out of all things, which, if you've been paying attention, it's been marketed extremely, extremely well. Now, after that discourse fell, bad actors turned their hate towards its menu, which might honestly be the single most hilarious topic that I have ever seen in gaming. I mean, come on, we're talking about menus here. Not the game, but menus. And I don't know if you all have seen the Armored Core 6 menu, but I'll just go ahead and leave this here and let you all be the judge for yourself. Does its menu speak to its quality, as was suggested by some weirdo online? But now, apparently, the new focus is on Starfield's invisible boundaries. Somebody posted a leaked video of somebody walking in a straight line for like 40-plus minutes to see if they could just walk around the entire planet, but they were eventually met with an invisible boundary. Of course, the naysayers, they've latched onto this topic as if it's some kind of groundbreaking discovery that will make or break Starfield. Again, it's not. But Tom Henderson tried to explain how this works. He said, basically, planets have a different number of landing spots with terrain limits. One planet might have 3 landing spots, whilst another might have 5. These are your main landing spots with POIs, and then you have another number of landing spot allocations where you can land anywhere. Once again, terrain limit. You can't run all the way around a planet or whatever, and can't run to another landing spot. Must just be a means to not stress consoles, computers, or whatever. Not sure why it's been made out to be a big deal, but the console war stuff never seems to stop on this platform, LOL. And that right there is the key point. It's not a big deal. Starfield is honestly probably one of the most ambitious games that we've ever seen, but as I've said before, people are honestly losing their minds over Starfield, and it's actually becoming kind of pathetic by this point. The fact that some people are trying so hard to kill some of its hype, and failing at it for that matter, is a sad reality to console warring. People should be ashamed of themselves for rooting against a game so adamantly, simply because it's not on their favorite plastic box. The entitlement is disturbing, and it's not what gaming is about. Gaming isn't about worshiping a plastic box, and for those people that ties their mentality around this type of thing, I mean, I have to question those people in general, but rather it's about having fun. And for you console warriors out there, do understand that Xbox's improvements also benefits PlayStation as a brand, because competition breeds excellence. The better Xbox is, the more PlayStation will improve as well. They keep each other in check, and always remember that. The good news here, though, is that Tom Henderson also answered a question that's on a lot of people's minds. It's no secret that Bethesda RPGs tends to release with some bugs, and that's just kind of expected by this point. You know, some people like to call them Bugthesda. Another loaded bullet for console warriors, I guess. But it sounds like that Xbox delay paid off in dividends. According to several sources that spoke with Insider Gaming, claims that Starfield is the least buggiest Bethesda release to date. It sounds like it's actually a polished product, and this is something that we have consistently heard since those review codes have gone out, and this is because Xbox's inclusion. This is something that they've done with several of their acquisitions. They've pushed their new studios to spend the extra time to make the best product that they possibly can. They did that with Psychonauts 2, they did that with Wasteland 3, and now they're doing the same thing with Starfield. And all of this benefits consumers directly. It was actually reported that Bethesda would have launched Starfield last year if it wasn't for Xbox. So, it's just really good to see them prioritize quality first. And I mean, I know that was a difficult decision for this game, especially because last year, Xbox didn't have a big AAA release. So to see them still make that decision speaks volumes to their priorities on quality first. But either way, just a couple more days, guys. Starfield is almost upon us, and let's hope it meets those expectations. Now, we also have a Nintendo rumor to talk about because, as expected, those Nintendo Direct leaks are coming in now, this time in a way of Zippo, which admittedly has a bit of a spotty track record with his leaks. Now, he has gotten some things correct in the past, including with Mario Wonder, and that right there is the reason why a lot of people tends to believe him. But, with any type of rumor, it's important to take this with a grain of salt. What's happening here, though, is that Zippo claimed that a Nintendo Direct will happen soon and possibly as early as this week. Now, he seems to be going back and forth on this and whether it'll happen this week or next, which honestly, I think looks a little suspicious. In reality, he could be right about things, but I think we can also view this as a low-risk prediction being passed as a leak. I mean, Nintendo likes their September Directs. That's not exactly some big secret. So it wouldn't be overly difficult to predict something like this and then pass it on as a leak. I think that there are some leakers out that does this, but at the same time, he does give some more precise details, and that's what I want to focus on today. He mentioned that GameCube announcements are very likely to be made here. Again, this could just be a prediction because GameCube remasters have been in the rumor mill for such a long time, and if any of those rumors are true, Nintendo would likely need to announce them sooner rather than later. I mean, if you think about it, with the Switch successor rumored for the second half of 2024, GameCube remasters makes a lot of sense to fill out their schedule between now and then. Plus, what about Metroid Prime 2 and 3 for the Switch? That is the one GameCube rumor that I do believe is factual, so maybe that could finally be announced at a September Direct if they indeed have one. I guess one way to kind of see if this leak has any credibility, though, is with his claim that Nintendo will have a Mario Wonder blowout this week, presumably on Wednesday or Thursday. That is something else he claimed here. So if that turns out to be true, then maybe some of these other things that he claimed could be factual as well. But I guess we'll see here in the coming days. Now, one last thing that I want to talk about is Armored Core 6 because it's gotten off to an incredible start. Not only is it the highest reviewed entry in the series by far with an 87 overall score on Metacritic, but it's now also the second best From Software launch on Steam. According to Steam database, it reached a peak high of 156,000 concurrent players on Steam, which, I mean, if you think about that, that is kind of crazy. The Armored Core series has never really been overly popular, but here you can see it had a better launch than the entire Dark Souls series had on Steam. And the only From Software title to have a better launch on Steam was Elden Ring, which was massively, massively popular. A big part of that, though, of course, is From Software's growing reputation. But that is the thing that I like to see here. It is great to see them have this success on a title that doesn't fall into that Soulsborne genre. Their success is now translating to something completely different, and for you Armored Core fans out there that's been with the series for years and years, this is exactly what you want to see. This all but ensures the Armored Core series has a long and bright future ahead of it, and for that matter, it also kind of opens the door for FromSoft to further experiment with more genres if they decide to. At the end of the day, From Software, they just know how to make great games. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though. We're asked you all with Starfield reviews set for later this week. What's your prediction? And as you can see here, the majority of you will actually expect a 90-plus overall score, with 55% voting for that, then 31% voted for 85 to 89, 9% voted for 80 to 84, 3% for 75 to 79, and then 2% of you all voted for 74 or below. So yeah, expectations are absolutely through the roof for Starfield, and I mean, it does seem like the early impressions, I'll say leaked early impressions, seems quite promising for Starfield. I mean, we'll see how this one turns out, but considering Bethesda has made some of the biggest RPGs in the past, you have Skyrim, you have the Fallout series, you have Oblivion, Morrowind, I mean, they have a good reputation for a reason, and with Starfield being so incredibly ambitious, it's easy to see why people have these sky-high expectations for this game. Now, I wonder if all outlets will treat it fairly. That's something that I do question because it is an Xbox exclusive, but I believe overall it will review well, and I think much like other Bethesda games before it, Starfield will be played for years and years to come. As much as this is an Xbox-branded game now, Bethesda RPGs have a massive, massive PC community, partially because of their mods, and I'll be interested to see how many concurrent players it has on Steam when it releases. Of course, with it being on Game Pass, a lot of people might instead choose to play on PC Game Pass or Xbox Game Pass, but I think Starfield ultimately will be one of Xbox's biggest launches of all time, and if it reviews well, that's only going to amplify it that much more. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.